Okay, I've got another movie quote. You have to start it. You have to say, I love you, and then I'm going to respond with
Do I need to say it sarcastically or
no,
like I
no,
really need to
no,
mean it?
no.
I love you.
I know. What movie is that
I
from?
have no
You
idea.
don't know what that's from?
Um,
What character
I
would
love you.
respond by just
I
saying,
know.
I know?
Iron Man. Does Iron Man, does he show any emotion?
With pepper, maybe a little bit.
Um,
Um, got it?
no, I was thinking Hitch. I was thinking
No,
Matthew
no.
McConaughey,
Think space.
Space Aliens.
Star Wars. Han Solo says it. Princess Leia is like, I love you. And he's like, I know. I think it's Empire Strikes Back. So there you go.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Speaking of Han and Leia, they had some conflict. We're talking about conflict.
Did they ever get together?
They had a child.
Well, I mean, were they ever
Gosh.
together after
Kylo
that?
Ren.
Good point.
Ugh. I'm
Conflict.
not even a Star Wars nerd, and I know that.
I kind of forgot. I was thinking more relationally, not
Did they ever get
the
together?
child.
Emotionally, I don't know. Physically, yes.
Why do we fight? We decided to do this one
I've
too because not that we had a fight last week, but
sure we did. Why
was
do
it a
we?
fight? Conflict.
Ask me again. Why do we fight?
Why do we fight?
Because you're wrong. Why do we have conflict in marriage? Why do we fight?
Because you don't see things the way I see them.
Because I want to be right.
Because I want you to see it the way I see it.
I don't know why you're not more like me. You should be more like me. I want people to be more like me. That's why I
Why
fight.
can't you clean the bathrooms the right way?
I don't clean them anyway. So, like, why is there conflict in any relationship, particularly in marriage? Feels like you have a verse
Because
for
it's
us.
biblical. You
All
guys,
right, let's hear it.
it's biblical. James 4:1. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you?
I,
So don't they come from your desires that battle within you?
we find ourselves to be pretty passionate people.
About our selfish
Not
desires,
really.
what we want. You
Yeah,
being having to be right all the
I'm
time.
passionate about wanting to be right.
Mm-hmm. How do you get through conflict then in marriage? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, today we're rather than really talking about okay, what do we do about it? It's more about why is it we fight and what's the point of it? How do we
mm-hmm.
look at conflict? And then
Mm-hmm.
next week maybe a little more specific on okay, what do we do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. So how do we fight?
how do you and I fight?
Yeah.
Do we yell?
No, I sometimes think we should. It might
Yeah, it might be easier to
might be a
go
little
faster.
easier. No, we don't yell.
We're not yellers. We are cold shoulder people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't even think as we've gotten older, I don't even know if it's cold shoulder. Cold shoulder tends to be an intentional like I'm not going to talk to you. And last week for me was more like one I felt bad about myself. Like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of self pity in it. It's more about like I feel dumb, and so
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
It's not like you did anything to sin against me. It was just more of like life conflict. And so
Yeah,
then when life conflict enters and you handle conflict in a different way,
yeah,
and then I'm looking at you going, I'm not sure how to talk about life. And it did, I mean, it affected both of us, but it wasn't, again, it wasn't like this huge,
yeah. It's not like we did anything to each other. We were.
no.
It was just like circumstances and like oh gosh, screwed that up or messed that up,
Mm-hmm.
and then I feel stupid, and so then I kind of retreat.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it is when we like have a fight too. Like there's like a retreat.
Yeah. So that would be
That's how
something
we
to
fight.
start thinking about how you fight,
Yeah.
right?
What does conflict look like? And it can look like a couple ways. Like how we fight, cold shoulder, like, and you can do that in healthy ways and unhealthy ways. We do it. Oftentimes we do it unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
You can be more passionate and yell at each other, and that can at times still be healthy,
Mm-hmm.
but it also can be dramatically unhealthy too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So just thinking, we know we're going to have conflict. In marriage, you need to expect conflict. So, what if we had a different idea of what we wanted to get out of conflict?
because usually what I want to get out of conflict
That's
is
it.
that you come to my side and I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
How about for you?
Yeah, I think yes. I want to.
Same.
Yeah, I want to prove that I am knowledgeable or I know what I'm talking about, and I think I've got something to share, and I think it's worth listening to. Yeah. So the question that we're posing for ourselves and for you is, what would it take for you and us, to want something different out of conflict besides just always being right? So instead of always like with that lens, we'd have to start looking through just different lenses. So let's challenge ourselves with, okay, if we could hit the rewind button, that was my button.
You're cute.
And do a like a redo of last week.
What
Like,
lens could we have looked through?
yes, to have a better experience. Strange to say.
In conflict?
In
How do I have a
conflict.
good, what would you like in your marriage? I'd like a wonderful fighting experience. I'd like a wonderful,
Right?
so I don't know.
How do we think through that?
Yeah, I've always thought like I want to be right, but what do I really want? Do I want to be right, or would I rather have a really strong marriage? Because I think sometimes us being
Good
right
point.
gets in the way of us having a really good marriage.
Mhm.
I think for me, it would be, how do I look at my marriage as something that I want to be great, rather than looking at my marriage of in a way that's just affirming all of my opinions and I'm making you more
Mhm.
like me.
Mhm.
Life would be so much easier if you just thought like me.
Mhm.
How boring would that be?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's a good point. And how about too, like you've often told me, like given me feedback of when you said blank and you said it with this tone, it made me feel like you've helped me to understand, like, oh, I didn't realize I came off that way. So what if I looked at conflict too as a way of really doing some self-reflection on how I say things, what I say, when I say it, and then my facial expressions. Like it's really it could be an opportunity just to even grow more mature
yeah,
and more self-aware.
yeah.
So
It is like I don't think I can think about this in the moment of the fight.
no,
So like,
that's why this is after the
yeah,
fight.
have a conversation,
It's like, okay, how well did we do that?
you know,
That
because once the emotions are high and I'm in it,
But then what are the tools? So
yeah,
the next time this happens, what are we going to do differently?
what
We're
do
going
we
to talk
do?
about that next week, right?
We'll talk about that next week because we don't know yet.
Right now we just need to understand we want something different to come out of it. Like, well, and two, what about like if we were to serve one another? You want something different for your marriage. You want to better your marriage. You want to better yourself. And what if too, it's that idea of, okay, we could use conflict, or Christ, Jesus, will use conflict to grow us deeper with him too. Because I think with conflict, there definitely is um, you have to get through your stubborn will and you're asking the Lord, hey, could you help me to approach this person, my spouse, who right now maybe I'm frustrated with, in a kind, loving way? And so I feel like when you have that relationship with Christ too, you can depend on his spirit to help guide you, and you lean on him more than you do on your own.
Yeah. And again, like we've been talking about marriage, the purpose of marriage being like for us to be more like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in conflict, and I think when I get into conflict, like I come out of it feeling ashamed oftentimes because I'm like, either I was wrong or I handled it wrong.
I feel stupid.
Yeah, that's oftentimes the same for me. And so like, but even in those spaces, okay, how does God want to use that to make me more like him?
Mm-hmm.
But again, in the moment, like I'm not thinking that. In the
Mm-hmm.
moment, I'm either trying to run, and it's fight or flight, right? Like I'm out of here,
Yeah.
or it's usually flight
Mm-hmm.
for us.
So let's go back to the idea of even, okay, what if we had a different lens of conflict? And instead of always wanting to prove what we're right, like that we're right, like using it as an opportunity to grow in our marriage, to understand one another better. And I was thinking of this verse too. I think um, just knowing that Satan is not for us is truly against us. And so just the verse, I was pulling this out, John 10:10. The thief comes only to, and I'm thinking of this within marriage relationships too, right? The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. So I think just even that reminder of, Satan, his plan is to come and put a wedge in our marriage and in our relationships with Christ and in our close relationships with our spouse. And if I understand that too, then it helps me to fight for my marriage and then rethink how I see things and how I want to approach things and do things differently.
Yep.
That's my thought for the day.
John 10:10, really good. Meditate on that this week. If Jesus has one plan for us, the enemy has a different plan for us, particularly in our marriage. So what do we leave people with? What's the challenge this week?
So when you are experiencing conflict in your marriage, what do you want? What do you really want?
What do you want?
What do you really want?
All right.
We'll see you next week.
We'll fight next week.